Hello! This week we are talking about texture, and today we're going to make our own sea turtles, and then we're going to make their shells have a bunch of different textures on them. I have this example, but I think we can do even better than this example. For this project, you want 2 pieces of colored paper. If you don't have colored paper, you could just color some paper or use white. One of them is going to be the seashell. The other one is going to be the details for the turtles, so the head and the arms. I have pink and gray. I just grabbed 2 random colors. You could pick whatever color you would like. I have some extra pieces of colored paper I just found around the room, some scrap paper. We're going to use this to create different textures on the sea turtle shell. I also found some foil. Thought it can add another texture. You want a pencil and an eraser, definitely our art tool basics. You're going to want some scissors and glue. And you're going to want something to color in with. So I'm going to move all of this out of the way so we can make the start of our turtle. And we're going to use all that extra paper to make the details on the shell. So what I'm going to do for my pink piece of paper, I'm going to move that down just a little bit, is I'm going to draw a large oval, and that is going to be my turtle shell. Now for my details, I'm going to add that on this paper. So we want a smaller oval. This is going to end up being our sea turtle's head. We want to make 2 arms and 2 legs, but first I'm going to get these cut out, and then I'm going to show you how we can fold our paper and cut so our arms can match. So I'm going to get these cut out, and then we'll move on to our next step. For my front sea turtle legs, I'm going to fold this paper in half so I can draw it and then cut it out, and they will look the same. What we want to do is we want to have a curved oval that kind of comes out like that. So I started, it almost looks like an organic shape, but we want to make it larger going to a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to cut it out while it's folded, and that'll give me 2 instead of just 1. And then they'll match. So I'm going to cut this out. And then these are going to go on either side, like this. Now I am going to fold this one, and I'm going to make our sea turtle's back legs. So for our sea turtle's back legs, again, we're going to start out with a rounded line. And then we're going to come down, and we're actually going to add a wavy line like that, so they can have their toes to help them swim. So again, I'm going to cut this out, and then the wavy line that I drew, and now we have our 2 back legs. So now that we have all this cut out, I'm going to flip this over so I can add my glue so I can put my sea turtle together. So I'm adding one on the top. That's where my head is going to go. Pressing it down. You can see I have 2 dots of glue on the side. That is where my fins are going to go. And then right here at the bottom, I'm going to add 2 more dots of glue. And then this is where my back fins are going to go. Need to flip it this way so it matches. Clean off that glue. Press it down, and now I can flip it over, and I have the start of my sea turtle. You can grab whatever you have to draw, and you can add in some details to your sea turtle. We're going to be decorating the shell. So we just want to decorate kind of our fins. You can decorate a little bit of the shell if you want to. But I'm going to use this marker, and I'm going to draw 2 circles for my eyes, a curved line for my smile. I'm going to color my eyes in a little bit, leaving a little part white for the highlight. And then I can choose what color I want to use for my other details. Because this is gray, I think I'm going to use blue. And I'm going to add a little detail coming out onto the head like that. I think here on the sides of the fin, I'm going to color in the bottom half. So right now we're just kind of decorating our sea turtle how we want it to look. We don't want to add too much detail onto the shell, just because that is going to end up being covered up. But I'm just adding some details on my legs. And I think I'm going to add it right here and here. And then I'm going to get this colored in, and then we will start adding things onto the back of our turtle shell, so we can have a bunch of different textures on the back. So I'm going to get this colored in, and then we will move on to our next step. We're going to start adding some different textures onto our sea turtle shell. I have these extra pieces of foil. If you have any extra foil, that's a really good way to get a texture. So I'm going to cut out a few pieces to put onto my shell. You can cut them in organic shapes or geometric shapes. That's kind of up to you, because you're designing your own turtle shell. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to crumple it up a little bit and then roll it back out. So I'm going to start with adding some foil onto here. I'm probably going to add 3 or 4 pieces, and then we can move on to our next texture. Okay, so we have our first texture on here, and it's foil. I'm actually going to use these blue strips of paper. You could cut out a strip for this part. And I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to make my next texture. And for this, I'm going to fold this back and forth. So we're playing around with texture on the back of here. If you have something that you find like fabric or anything like that that has really interesting texture that you want to put on your turtle, you can definitely do that as well. So I am folding up these, and then I'm going to add a line of glue so they can stick on there. I'm probably going to need to find a place for this to dry. And again, maybe right here is where I'll add this one. Like that. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for my next texture. I'm actually going to take these strips of paper again, fold it in half, and instead of making them like this, I'm actually going to take it from the center, and I'm going to bend it a little bit, and then I'm going to roll it up. And I'm going to keep rolling it and rolling it. And then I'm going to take a little bit of glue right on the end, dot it, and then hold it for a second. And now I have this swirly that has a whole new texture. So I'm going to make a few of these and glue them around on my turtle. That one unpopped, but it's okay. I can go back. I'm going to show you one more time how I made that. So I take it and I bend it in the center, and then I just use my fingers to roll it up. And I keep rolling it. And then once I get to this outer edge, I take my glue, I put a dot, and then I squish it and I hold it. For this one, I'm going to go back and re-hold it so I can put it down once it's dried. And that's how we get these cool sort of swirlies that we can put around our turtle. I'm going to make a few of these and get them glued down. To glue them down, I just like to put a nice big dot of glue. It's a little bit messy, but we can find a place for this to dry. And then I just squish it down like that. So we have 3 textures on here now. And I'm going to get a few more of these put on here, and we'll move on to our next texture. So I added a few more on there, so now we have 1, 2, 3 different kinds of texture. I'm going to grab some of this purple paper, and we're going to try another texture. And this one is pretty fun because it's kind of like this one's a little bit harder, this one's a lot of it easier. So I'm going to take my purple paper and I'm going to crumple it up like I did for the foil. And I'm going to hold it in my hand and I'm going to roll it around to Get it really nice and crumpled up. I might even go in and crumple it up some more. So you want to spend a long time, I guess not a long time, but some time crumpling up this paper. And it's going to be our fourth texture we're adding on. So crumpling it. And you'll see whenever you start to crumple paper, it actually gets a little bit softer because it starts to break everything down. So I'm just rolling it in a circle, rubbing it in between my hands so I can change the texture of this paper. Once I have that, I am going to cut, or I'm not going to cut, I didn't mean to say that, I'm not going to cut this, but I'm going to tear off pieces from this and glue it around so it really has that like torn look. And that can be our next texture. You can overlap it on things if you want. But I am going to, since I have this already, I'm going to keep tearing out some shapes to glue around on here, and then we will move on to our last texture I'm going to show you how to add on here. If you come up with your own, you definitely can, because the sea turtle shell is kind of where we can put whatever we want. I'm going to keep tearing out some pieces of this purple and trying to fill in some of these open spots. And then we will move on to our last texture. So I added some of that paper on. Now I'm going to grab a new color. I was going to use this cream, but I think this pink might be a little more exciting. So what I'm going to do for my last texture is I want to cut out a bunch of the same shape, and I want them to be pretty small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pink paper and I'm going to fold it, and then I'm going to cut out some circles. If you wanted to do a different shape, you definitely could. But I think I'm going to stick with circles just because I think they're kind of easy to cut out, and I like to work smarter, not harder. What we're going to do for these is we're going to fold them in half so they kind of pop up on one side, and we're going to glue them in to fill in all the little gaps that need to be filled in, kind of going every different direction. And then I add a dot of glue, because a dot is a lot, and I'm going to use these to fill in any little open gaps that I have, where I think they look nice. And that's going to be our last texture that we added onto these crazy different textures. Oop, that needs to dry on here. So I'm going to fill this in, and then we will be done. Right, so I cut out some more to put all around here. I feel like I gotta like show you it from the side so you can see all the different textures that was created. Put that back down. I'm gonna go find a safe place for this to dry. I'm gonna add some more glue onto this. I cannot wait to see how your projects come out. I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, your evening, your afternoon. Bye.